Canon XA60 is a very useful camera when used properly. Today we're going to go over your Canon XA60 Bootcamp Prep. Some students had issues going through the manual and understanding what it is they needed to do for proper use of the camera. So we're going to check out those responses today. So if you open your Canon Bootcamp Prep document, we'll begin with number 1. Although I won't use the manual today, I will provide correct responses. The first question is, how do you switch between auto and manual focus? And as many of you discovered, if you go to the screen, which you could find in the manual, when they show the image of the screen, it'll direct you right here to button number 1, AF/MF. That is the autofocus manual focus button. And if you notice here right now, it's on the screen in manual focus. One push of the button and now it's in autofocus. Okay. The next question on the list is, what is the purpose of ND filters? Well, ND filter stands for neutral density. And to access the neutral density filter, first you would take the camera, and here you have your auto and manual mode. You can simply switch on into manual mode, which operates based upon your settings as opposed to manual. You go to the menu button, which we all know by now the menu button is on the back, and you navigate with this wheel. So let's go to menu button. Let's just go through the menu in general while we are here. So as you go through, you have your camera set up, and I'm going up and down using the joystick that's here. That's how I'm going up and down, left and right. And you can see all your settings there under number 1, under number 2, under number 3. And as you see under number 3, we have ND filter. You go down and you can select it, and right now it's selected automatic. In this mode, the neutral density filter will automatically engage when the light level is at a certain point. However, you may want to turn this off if you are filming indoors or in low light conditions. Let's go back. From time to time, you'll see the screen change, and understand when you do, it's because I'm navigating with the menu and the joystick. Okay, let's go back now. We'll go to the home screen. Well, let's just go through the menu again. So we're still on camera setup with this icon of the camera. We're at number 3. And number 4, you can see where you can set white balance priority, focus ring operations, etc. Under 5, it's your IR color, IR red color, and your function, CP function, which we aren't using at this time. We go over, now we're in recording setup. Notice here that the menu has changed. It says recording setup. If I go back, now it's camera setup. So each of the icons at the top are responsible for a different setting. Let's go over to, again, recording setup. This is where we can record an MP4. If I select it, it's MP4 or XFAVC. That's a question later, number 5, which we'll get to in a moment. Remember, we'll come back to that. That's under recording setup. You can also change your resolution from HD, which is 1920 1080. Let's see if we can get a bit of a zoom on that. (1920 to 1080). A little blurry for you. Let's see, get a little clearer. There we go. 1920 to 1080. Or if you select the joystick and push in, you have different settings. 4K, which is 3840 by 2160. You can also go to HD at 17 megabytes. Typically, we're filming in 1920 by 1080 or often in 4K, depending on your file sizes. Keep in mind that 4K will put your file sizes at they'll be much larger, and it takes up more space, but obviously a clearer picture. Let's go back and put it in 4K. And then we'll go back. You can also select your frame rate. Your frame rate, which we'll talk to, right now is set at 29.97p. Notice that the 60 frames per second is grayed out, and there's a reason for that. This camera can only do 59, or what we would call 60, where we round up. There's a reason for these numbers with decimals we'll talk about later. But we round up. So this is at 30 frames per second, which is what we typically see on media, social media sites, whatever. If you want to film more for television, that's typically or usually around the world at 24 frames per second, or in this case, 23.98. This is where most of your television and cinema type movies are filmed, and that's where you want to go. 30 frames per second for online or things of that nature, and 4K 60 frames per second. We'll show you how to get back to that, but that's for sports, especially if you want to slow it down. We'll talk about frame rates later on, but essentially this is how many pictures this camera takes every second, or how many frames it captures every second. So obviously the more frames per second, the clearer the picture. Unlike years ago when they shot in 16 frames per second, like the old black and white movies, they looked very jittery as people moved across the screen, because those were only 16 frames per second. But let's go back to show you how you can get 60 frames per second. If we go back to our resolution, if we were to go down to 4K 1920 by 1080, and then return back to our frame rate, when you go down and select it, now you'll see that you can film at 60 frames per second, which we like to do, especially for sports. Anything with a lot of fast action, it reduces motion blur at sports or fast action, cars, horse races, even people running. You want to capture them. Otherwise, it'll look a bit glitchy and blurry sometimes. And you can always use that to go into slow motion, which we'll talk about later. So for now, we'll leave it at 60 frames per second. Further down, we have audio format. Right now, we are capturing or monitoring or recording 2 channels. You can record up to 4 channels with this camera, but for us, 2 channels is sufficient, so we'll leave it there. Now, if we go over to the top again, we're over to number 2, recording media. Currently, we are filming and taking pictures both on the SD card slot A. Remember, your SD cards are located here on the side, where you can see you have SD slots A and B. And currently, as you see, we only have a card in A. So all of our pictures and videos, as you can see on the screen, are being captured on slot A. If we select it, you'll see that we could have we could have it to where we record on A and take photos on B, or record on A and take photos on A or on B, and vice versa. It just depends on what you want to do with your camera. Right now it's set to dual relay recording, and what that means is, we have dual relay recording. So what can happen, you can have 2 cards if you're filming a long, this is a little bit, there we go. If you're filming a long clip or a long scene, or let's say many hours of filming, a card can fill up. And what will happen if you have it set to relay recording is it'll just continue from card A to B once card A runs out. If you have dual recording, it will record both in card A and B at the same time. Where if you want to allow someone else to have a copy of the footage, if they're going to edit and you want your own copy, or you can also copy or film one channel, one card in HD, another in 4K. So there's some options there. I know we're doing Bootcamp Prep, but this suffices also. You also have the option for fast and slow motion. Right now it's off. You can film at 2 times the rate, 4 times, 10 times, or 20 times, 60 times, 120 times, so in 4K. So you can film pretty much in those frames, all right? So let's go back for a moment and turn it off. It's off. Let's go back to menu again. Let's go back to our, we're going to go back to our recording setup, and we're going to go back to our resolution frame rate and turn it back to 30 frames per second. Now when we exit and we go back over into our slow and fast motion, you'll see at 30 frames per second is when we can film in slow motion. And you can see at 0.5 or half the speed. So those are the options you have for filming fast or slow motion. You saw in 4K, in 4K you could film quite a bit speeded up. It would speed up your camera tremendously. And you could always slow it down or speed it up in post. On that same menu, it shows you how much space you have available in your memory card. This is a 256 gigabyte card. We have 245 gigabytes available, which is plenty of time. And it shows you here if you're filming in MP4 at 35 megabits per second, you have 15 hours and 29 minutes. If you're in XFAVC, you have 3 hours and 23 minutes left, because that's a more advanced codec. It's a more advanced, has higher resolution and more data, so a much clearer picture. And that's what a lot of cinemas are filmed in when you go into the movies. If you're going to take photos, you can see at the bottom you have up to 233,000 photos that you could put on that one card, which is quite a bit. All right. Initialize. The initialize button, you want to be very careful, because that's how you clear out a card. You can erase everything on a card. So if your card is new and the camera's not recognizing it, you may turn it on and it says we can't record on this card. You need to come into the recording setup and go down to initialize and select that option to erase the card. So if we press it now and we go down to memory card A, if there was a B card, it would show both. Click A, and it tells you how much used space we've used, 883 gigabytes. And if I were to go into if I were to go into the media switch and switch back to media, I could see what that was. But for right now, we won't be deleting anything. You want to be very careful. It's so dangerous with that option, because you can lose all of your footage. So we only use that if we are completely done with our footage, we have it downloaded somewhere else, we're finished with the project, we already have it done, and we have backup somewhere else. So let's go back. Record command right now is off. It's not a function that we're using right now, but it's off. Let's go over to part 3. Here, these are some options we will use in the future for time coding. Time coding, when you have multiple cameras and things of that nature, audio mixers, etc., and we want them all to start at the same time, so that in post everything is smooth and in line. We would connect a time code jammer to these cameras, and once we press record on there, it all records at the same time. Right now we aren't needed that, so it's off. Recording setup, if we had other options selected, all of these would be visible, and I'll show you that later. This would be camera index, real number, clip numbering, user defined, etc. And those would number your clip, but right now, because of our settings, it's off. And then recording setup, we could have color bars on. Right now it's off, so I'll show you what that looks like. Those are color bars, something you might see on television. For example, you may just have this camera set with a television program, and if the television program ends or goes off, you could transpose these color bars onto another TV screen, and it's what you see on TV sometimes. And it also is a good way to look to see the color reproduction of the camera. And these are different ones, ARIB, and typically in North America we are under SMPTE, different color bars, as you can see there. And it's also good for us, again, other functions. But for now they're off because we don't want that, we want to film. You can have your 1 kilohertz tone on, which when you start recording, it would give you a tone where you'd hear a beep, and you would know that that's the beginning of a new footage. We could have the clip and photo numbering, turn it on. It's continuous, meaning every time we stop and start, the clips are numbered in order. Or we could have it reset to every time it happens, but we keep it continuous in order to number our clips. On-screen display recording, this is good for if you're going to use this camera as, let's say, a monitor or a security camera, where you would see the footage of what's on the screen. Oh, I'm sorry, not the footage. You would see the time, date stamps on the recording itself. So like you might see on a security camera, you'd be able to know when something happened and what time it happened. but we don't want that because that's not the function we're doing. Next is the audio setup, where you would set up your audio. Right now we're currently set up with our 2 channels. We have a mic into channel 2 and we're listening through channel 1. So right now that's our particular setup. Mic attenuation and trimming, I'll just well, I can't display it on this camera, but sometimes there's a lot of fuzz and extra noise. This will cut your camera microphone down by some decibels if it's kind of loud. And then attenuation, that'll also trim the sound down and noise in the background. But keep in mind, if you turn these on, it will eliminate a lot of background noise, but you may need to adjust your levels on the side, these are the mic levels, and right now it's medium. So if you ever are not able to see your audio levels and you have these on, it may be because you need to turn these up. For example, the microphone that I'm currently filming on, the camera and the mic, I have these both set to on, so I had to turn these up quite a bit to almost max, but not quite. And it just depends on which microphones you're using. So for us, though, we're keeping it there. Over to the next one, we could link channel 1 and channel 2 together, or we could keep them separated, meaning if we separate them, we could have one microphone going to channel 1, one to channel 2, and we could be able to record 2 different audios. Perhaps it's a documentary or a podcast. We have one camera filming 2 different folks, and we want to have a clear sound. We could separate them. Right now we have both channels 1 and 2 linked because we're just doing solos right now. The other items on here would be mic sensitivity, attenuation, low cut filters, etc. Similar to the last page where I showed you about the trimming and attenuation, but we aren't using those now. Channel 3, you can set your headphone volumes. Right now we're monitoring channels 1 and 2. We could just do channel 1 or both channel 2s, or channel 1 plus channel 2 divided by channel 1 and channel 2, which kind of gives you a nice balance. But right now it's channel 1, channel 2. We aren't really using those now, so I'm going through kind of fast. We could also have on notification sounds to make things beep and whatnot, but not now. Over to the next one, this is your display setup. This is all about this display here, right? So our resolution on here, we have it at 1920 1080, but I could have it at 1280 by 720. A little bit different depending on how I want to view it. And then we have our scan mode, which is progressive, much like you see on your TV, which you'll see 1080p or 720p, that type of deal. That's a progressive stance. We have our output status. We could change the brightness on our LED. For example, I could go over and make this, much brighter if I wanted to. See, I was getting this brightening up. Oh, so you have a glare. Sorry about that. I didn't notice the glare. Sorry about that. I don't even know how long it was on, but nevertheless, we could brighten the screen, or we could dim the screen, and you can kind of see a little bit of change where you are. And I like to keep it sort of midway. Too bright and it can hurt your eyes after a while, just like at home on your television. So these are very similar to your television settings at home. Backlight and the viewfinder luminance, the viewfinder at the back where you look through in your eye, you can change those also. You can make it the LCD to be a mirror image, like if you're vlogging, you turn this around while you're in front of the camera and have a mirror image. You could have the displays, the output on-screen displays on or off. I have them off because if you have an HDMI cable and you're sending this signal to somewhere else, if you have this on, you'll see all of this stuff on your output display. We don't want that. We just, for now. Sometimes you may want this to go out to a director or DP or producer, and they want to see what frame rate you're using, and et cetera, so you can have that on, but we aren't doing that. All right, you have your on-screen markers. I like to use the markers where you see the thirds, and someone has this particular one set to gray, so you can see these lines on the camera are gray. We could also set those to, for example, maybe someone doesn't like gray, maybe they're colorblind, maybe they want white, I don't know. So I like white person. I like gray personally. Sometimes I'll do white. And then if we select white and go home, you'll see now they are white. Just your particular preference. Some people like gray, some like white. And so I like the thirds, rule of thirds. Some people just want to see a level, like in the middle. They want to know what's in the middle of the screen. They like to balance front to back. But we want to go by the rule of thirds. That's what we're teaching you most. And we'll talk about the rule of thirds. I'm going to put it back to gray. And we'll go back. We'll talk about the rule of thirds later. And we want to have ours in feet. Some people prefer meters. If you would like the metric system, maybe you put it in meters. It shows you how far, or it gives the measurements in feet or meters in terms of how far your subject is away. And then finally, we have the system set up, which is for our language, our time zone, date and time zone. Let's just double check to see if it's the right time zone. It is set to Los Angeles. You can have it on airplane mode when you travel. Let's say you're going to film in another place. You can set that location for travel time. Date and time should be correct. Yes, it's the 24th at 3:49 p.m. That is correct. Okay, that's okay. Power LED on, which is the green light that you see at the back of the camera here. Keep that on. I like to have it on so I'll know my camera is functioning or not. The tally lamp is this right here. When we press record, it's on. We can turn it off. That lets everyone know, for example, if you're the newscaster, you're broadcasting news, it lets the folks know, they can tell which camera they're supposed to look into. You have multiple cameras, sometimes all the tally lights are on. All right, and then the access LED is on this side. It lets you know when you are filming. Sorry, it's right here. It lets you know when you're filming or when you are stopped filming that the device is still functioning. You shouldn't turn it off until you're done. I didn't explain that pretty well. You can also assign buttons. All these buttons you see on with the numbers, you can assign them to do several things. Right now, for example, if I press button 1, which is this one, you see that it is assigned to have manual autofocus by default. Button 2 right here is a pre-record. So for example, it's set at pre-record for 3 seconds. So it'll it records 3 seconds before you press the record button. But I can set it to quite a few things. If I want to have it for my white balance, my iris, face only, just depends on what you want. We haven't set any of the buttons yet to assign them, but it's just shortcuts that you can do once you get to know your camera. And you can assign all the buttons on here. So there are 5 assignable buttons on the camera. And that's pretty much the setup for the menu on the XA60. Now that I did that, let's get back to our Bootcamp Prep. So the first question was how do you switch between auto and manual focus, and I just showed you that was here on the number 1 button, AF/MF. Number 2 says what is the purpose of ND filters? I explained that also, which is how I got into this whole function, that ND filters, this camera just happens to have them built in. The ND filters add a layer of protection. It's like sunglasses for your camera. Imagine if you're out and about on a sunny day and you're looking at the beach or wherever, and it's a sunny day, you can't really see, but you put sunglasses on, now you can see. The same with the camera. So ND filters are like sunglasses for your camera, and they're very beneficial. All right, let's move on down. Number 3, which setting controls brightness, iris, shutter, or gain? And that's a trick question because you can control brightness with all 3 of them, iris, shutter, and gain. And we'll see about that later. We'll go over the exposure triangle and talk about those. Number 4 says, how do you monitor audio levels on the XA60? I think a lot of you tapped into that and understood. You can monitor audio levels by, number 1, on the front of the screen here. There are audio levels there. Let's see what this is. And someone has settings. Let's get those settings correct. Mic. This should be auto and off, and see the audio levels there. You can monitor them there. And of course, you can put headphones in, and you have on the side a headphone jack to be able to listen. Aside from headphones, you have headphones, the mic, you have the audio out, and you have the USB if you wanted to use this as a webcam connected to your computer. HDMI if you wanted to connect it to, for example, a monitor, or much like I do in class when I have the camera broadcasting to another television. All right, so the difference between MP4 and, XFAVC formats, well, let's go into the menu again, and we're going to go to recording setup, and we have movie format. MP4 is currently the setting. And we're going to go MP4. Typically, that's what you usually see on YouTube videos online. When you're watching those type of videos that you send to your friends on your phone, those are MP4 files. They're not bad, they're very clear, but I'm sorry, I went to the wrong screen. But when you go down to select it and you get the option for XFAVC and you go there, those are the ones, as I said, for movies and more cinematic, a more cinematic look, and we'll get to play around with those and you'll be able to compare the difference. That's what you'll see for Hollywood movies, and we'll go more in depth as far as what the differences are. But there's more data, more information in the picture, which means a clearer picture. All right, that's it for part one. Let's go down to part two. So part two is asking you to manual treasure hunt. So within the manual, it's asking you for the particular pages where you can find certain information. And I'm not going to go through that right now. You went through it in class because I'm not going through the manual. I wanted to cover the parts about the camera. But you should be able to find the iris, the white balance, the audio input, stabilization, media formatting. Pretty much we want you to understand how to search the manual. Part three is the tactile portion, which we've been doing a little bit of tactile practice, meaning the ability to touch and manipulate. And so for us, the tactile practice, the first one talks about inserting a battery in the SD card and powering on and off the camera. And so here we are. We have the power button here for the camera. Power is on, power is off. Always make sure you turn the power off before you insert a battery or SD card. So let's do a battery. You turn it over. You have the battery compartment here. Simply slide the battery release in with the arrow tells you. Slide it in and you slide the battery up. Simple. To put it back in, you don't have to slide it. You just place the battery kind of over it, pressing in, and it locks into place. To access the SD card, you open here and you slide, it says SD card here, A and B. Let's turn it this way for you. SD card A and B, you slide up the window gently, slide it up gently and it'll click. And then the cards are here. You simply give it a press and it comes out. Let's turn it sideways. Let's turn it sideways this way so you can get a better view of how that looks. It's a simple press. Uh-oh. Here we go. It's better. Press. Right, here we go. Press. Click, click. Click, click. I don't know if you heard that. And it slides out. Never touch these, these tips. All right. Then you put it back in. You find the slot and you gently put it in. If you're putting it in the wrong way, you'll know because it won't slide. If you start feeling it not going in smoothly, stop. Don't break it. Just turn it around the correct way. And you push it in and close the window. That's how you take on and off the battery, power off, and on the camera. Camera is off, and now let's power it back on. And you see when you power it on, the light comes on, and pretty soon the screen will come on and kind of let you know what settings it's in, the time of day, etc. And now you're ready to begin filming. We opened it up. Number 2 says record a short clip and play it back. So we'll go ahead and press record on the short clip. So the record button is here. You can also lock it in case you don't want to accidentally stop it when you're recording, because it's easy to hold the grip and accidentally press it. Can you imagine you have Beyonce, you're filming a concert and you accidentally stop it, you're in trouble. So it has a lock there. But there's also another way to record. There's a record button at the back. You can stop and start there. That one doesn't have a lock. And you'll notice on the screen, I'll turn the lock off. Notice on the screen when I press record, watch the screen here. Red button comes on to let you know you're recording and the timer starts. Press it again, it stops. So I just recorded some footage. In order to play it back, you go to your media. So you have your camera here and you have your media button here. So you slide to media. And in media, once you have it there, it takes a second. The clips that you film, let's get you the glare off. The clips you film will be on the screen. You can go here and then play it back. It's actually, I can hear when I was recording. You can tap the screen again. You can fast forward, stop, or tap it, jump to the next clip. Now that's the next clip. Okay, there we go. You can also go here. There's some functions you can delete, and you can select the clips you want to delete. Delete all clips? No. Select. And I can go and select the ones I want. Maybe I just don't want them all. So while you're filming, you can already get rid of the things you don't want. In this case, I don't want these clips, so I'm going to delete them. And press OK. It warns you, gives you an option so you don't accidentally delete, and now it's deleting. And it says process successfully completed, OK. And now that you're ready to go back, you go back to camera and you're ready to film again. So that was number 2. The next one says adjust the iris ring to make one clip dark and one clip light, bright. And so here is the iris ring here. That's the iris ring there. In order to get to the iris, you want to take the camera and you need to go to manual. It's in, it was in auto, so you go from auto to manual. Stay with me, get the screen right. And you go to, if you go to function, now you'll see your iris is there, right? Your shutter is there. That's how you access it. But it only works in certain modes. It doesn't work in every mode. What do I mean by mode? Let me go to the home screen. Let me go back for a minute. X this out. At the top, this shows your modes. Right now it's in manual. But if you select it, you'll see different modes on the top of the screen that you can go in. So let's see. You have program, auto, program AE, auto exposure. You have shutter priority, AE for television, aperture priority. You have manual. You have portrait. You have sports. You have night scene. You have snow. You have beach, you have sunset, you have low light, you have spotlight. And I don't know if you noticed, but the color continues to change, and fireworks, right? So we're in manual, and in that exposure level, you can access a lot more functions, again, such as the iris, you can shutter speed, the gain or the ISO, auto white balance. You can also access the focus in auto and manual. Magnification, sometimes you want to magnify to go in and see what's in focus, and you can move that around, and that way you can check where your camera is focusing in. All right, you can also go to the zoom function. You can set your start and stop button. You can different looks. What are the different looks that your camera can have? So you have your sharpness, contrast, and depth, and then you have your audio. So a lot more options in that realm. All right, so with the iris, you can see you have your settings there for your aperture. You can go in there and you can change your aperture. You can change your aperture. We'll talk about that, but you see how the aperture, the iris changes it to light and dark also? We'll see why. You'll see that F number, and we'll talk about what that means, and we'll get back to that ring changing it also. The shutter speed, that's like your eyes blinking. How fast you want it. Look how it's closed. It's not opening much at all. It's not letting in much light. But if I take it down, you'll see more light comes in. If you blink them, your eyes slow when they're closed, you don't open them as fast. It stays dark for a while, doesn't it? But blinking them really fast, it lets a lot more light in. And then your gain, the same with the gain. You can see here how it can make the picture brighter or darker. So that was a trick question. And we'll talk about that exposure triangle. Auto white balance, you have your auto white balance. I can set my auto white balance, and I can put a card in front of it. Like there's a white card here. I press set for the white balance, and it's setting the white balance. And now that one's set, 6900 Kelvin, we'll see. If I turned it to somewhere else, and I go to number 2, and I press set, it'll set it. Remember, the other one was 6900. This one is now, sorry you didn't see that, guys, 2700. So we'll talk about what those are for. But you have tungsten, like for lights. You have daylight if you're outside. Let's go back in the menu. Okay, change white balance from auto to tungsten. I just did that, right? I'll do it again, but we just did that. Go down to white balance once more. White balance. It says change from tungsten, from auto to tungsten using white paper, and that's what I just did when I did the functions here. You can change the color temperatures. We'll talk about that. Part 5 says plug in an external mic and test audio levels. Well, I have my external mic plugged in. You can see the mic is here, and it's external because there are internal mics. You can't. Let's see if we can get a clearer picture of the external mics. The external mics sit right behind the, right underneath the edge of the camera. See, there's one right there. They're on both sides. These are external mics. You can get a little bit of a view of it. I had a good angle of it, trying to angle it for you. There it is on that side. Those are internal or onboard mics. The external mics are any mics that you plug into the, any mics that you plug into the XLR ports here, 1 and 2, and then you can also plug a mic here into the unit there. And so plug in external mics, test audio levels. I'm testing the levels because I'm actually wearing headphones. You don't see them on my head, but I have on headphones, and so that's how I can test my levels and see what's too loud. You never want your audio too loud. All right, so that is tactile section 3, and the rest of it is a reflection. But I hope you got something out of it and you come one step closer to, mastering the Canon XA60 camera. And yeah, so we'll be moving on to either the boot camp or the quiz itself. Be prepared. Feel free to review this video for further information or just as a review. Have a nice day. Peace.